Namaskar, good evening, and welcome to all of you to our webinar tonight. I would like to start by reading from Living Wisely, Living Well. Today's topic is on feeling the vibrations of the world around you. I'll just read a part of this saying for today from Swami Kriyananda ji. When traveling anywhere as a tourist, don't be satisfied with merely seeing the sights. Try to feel the vibrations of the places you visit. You will find in time that you can actually sense some of their history and the consciousness of those who lived there long ago. Everything you see around you is composed of consciousness, and consciousness emits vibrations, which in turn endure for centuries, perhaps even forever. This is a very special topic that is actually quite deep in how to feel the vibrations that are all around you. And I think for many people, they are trapped or closed in their own reality, in their own small world. They don't feel the people around them. They're not sensitive to other people's realities. Besides other people, they're not in tune with nature. And as I was thinking of this, I thought, how could one feel the presence of God if you can't feel the presence of really the people around you and the things and places around you? And so it's a topic that we need to really think about and to explore. When I first went to Ananda, I remember such a thrilling feeling of when I first started, well, before I even went there, I had a feeling in my heart that there were people who were like me, who were like-minded. I started in Los Angeles, where I was born, and I would go to the various shrines there of masters, and I loved them, but still there was something that I felt wasn't quite mine. I remember feeling in my heart, where is my family? Asking that question. And after a short while, someone told me about Ananda, and I went there and I met Swami Kriyananda ji, and I met the people. I saw the different people who you know who were early on at Ananda, Nayaswami's Jyotishan Devi and Jayaji and Asana Devi ji and various ones. And they were all dressed in, Indian style. This was in the late 70s, and so the outward dress was Indian, and there was, all the men had the long hair, and it was kind of a hippie community, a little bit. And I was coming up from Los Angeles, as I said, and I just remember the feeling of going beyond the appearance and feeling that this was my home. And that when I met Swamiji, I felt, I know him from somewhere, some distant lifetime. I didn't know about reincarnation or karma or anything, but there was a feeling there. And I think I've always been, like in this lifetime, pretty open and receptive. And as I learned the chants at Ananda, I felt, these chants, they sound familiar. It wasn't the words, it was the vibration of them. And when I learned the techniques of energization, of Hongsa, all the various things, Kriya, I remember feeling, this is familiar. And I kept going forward on the path because I felt this sense of, this is mine, I have done this before, I know these people, I know this feeling. Swamiji's writing seemed familiar, the music that he wrote, the chanting. And I had a similar feeling when I came to India in 2005. Now, mind you, I didn't ever think I'd be living in India. I wasn't desiring to be in India. I didn't know much about India at all. I was serving in America, I had served in Europe, I had gone to Africa and Australia. India was nowhere in my mind, but Master sent me here. And I think because I have been here before, I certainly, once I got here, I felt this was familiar to me. When I met the people here in India, I felt a kinship, I felt a connection, I felt a bond, you might say, with many of the people here. And it drew me. And so that was a memory. That was a familiarity. That was something that I felt an attunement with. And that came from a feeling. It didn't come from my mind. And when you think about it, there are many places we go to. There are people who we meet, and we feel like there's something there, how we can connect, that we can connect with, and we connect with them. And so this is how it was for me when I got on the path, and then also when I came to India. And I was thinking about, now, how does one open up in that way? And I'll talk a little bit later about pilgrimage, but how do we open ourselves to be able to feel this or that, or experience this? Or Master said, look in the eyes of another person to feel if you feel a friendship from a past life with them. I certainly have felt that. But in general, as we meditate more, we become more sensitive. We become more perceptive of things around us. We become more aware. Our consciousness is more expansive, where it's not just our little life in front of us. As we chant, our heart opens up. We feel more of an uplifted energy in the heart rather than emotions. We feel devotional and uplifting feeling. As we do yoga postures, our whole body opens up. The spine opens, the energy awakens, the energy rises. All of these things that we do as we listen to the music and Swamiji sing Swamiji songs in the choir, we can say, we begin to open up. We begin to become more receptive. And this receptivity and openness in our heart, in our whole being, and it's an uplifted openness and receptivity. I remember Swamiji saying to someone, or maybe to a group of us one time, he said, you don't want to be so open that your brains fall out. So we're not talking about a negative openness, we're talking about a sensitivity of what's happening around you. And I think that people often miss so much that's happening because they're not tuned in. So when we're speaking of this, we're speaking of attunement, really, like tuning a radio or focusing the camera, or just being able to see what's really there. And I believe there are presences here among us that the masters probably visit more than we would ever know. They come to help us. They're angelic beings who come. There was a woman at Ananda village who was the mother of one of the members, and she was out walking, and then she saw Yoganandaji. This was many decades ago, and she was a Catholic, devout Catholic, and she was very moved. She talked to him for a while, and she said, "Oh, do you come here often?" And he said, "Yes, well, I'm always here." And these are the things that, when you become more sensitive, you become aware that there is so much more going on than what we expect. And so, as we go about life, it's important to try to open up more, just to things that are more around us, and then more and more we can open to God. But I like to go for walks every day, and I just tune in all around me to nature, to the trees, to the birds singing. And, as I'm walking, sometimes I walk barefoot and I try to feel the earth. And maybe you heard this other talk, but I was in Hawaii when I went to America. Every day I walked on the sand and I just tried to feel and the healing vibrations there. I went in the water and swam, and I just opened myself up. And this is so important for the devotee on the spiritual path. We can't will our way to God. We can't force our way. Remember Swamiji's, Master said to Swamiji, you just have to give devotion, meaning open your heart, become more receptive. And we know that when we go out and look at the sky or the stars or the moon or whatever, we just break the cage of littleness that we have. And we start to feel that there's so much more to life than what we see. I was thinking about nature as I was preparing for this, and I was thinking about the plants and how the plants, they really talk to you. If you talk to them, they talk back to you. And there's a story of George Washington Carver, who many of you may have heard of him. He was a scientist and worked with the plants just like Luther Burbank did. And he would go out in his garden every morning, and he would, early in the morning, he'd walk through and he'd just feel the plants. I love plants. I don't know if you have them, but I'd love to have them around because they give so much. So he would walk through and he would go up to the plants and he would say, now tell me what your secrets are. And then he would listen and he would hear back. Now what he would hear, I don't know, but he would go into his laboratory and he would do different experiments. And for example, anything around a peanut, George Washington Carver discovered peanut butter, anything that has to do with the humble peanut, he was able to discover 300 ways to utilize the peanut just from being sensitive. And then the plants, they tell you, they talk back. If you listen, now they don't have a voice like we have, but there's a sweet story of a rose devotee, as one of the disciples was with Master, and there was a rose in the vase, and wherever Master went, the roses turned this way, or turned that way, or turned around, and the devotee said, Master, you have a rose devotee that's following you around. So plants really, they can feel, animals can feel, they can feel our love for them, they open up, they respond more. It's very good to just attune yourself more with nature around you. And then to talk about pilgrimage a little bit, which was talked about tonight. Someone gave me a rock that was from Babaji's cave. And then someone today gave me a stone from Lahiri Mahashaya's house. And then we have a little piece that Master's family gave us of a brick from Master's house. Now, think about that. I got those, and I actually hold them quite often, especially the rock from Babaji's cave. I've had that for a little while. And I hold that, and I meditate with it, and I put into that my love and my devotion. Otherwise, it's a rock. Otherwise, it's a stone. Otherwise, it's just something picked up off the ground. And I brought back from America, Neha and I, 24 murtis of our gurus. And now a murti by itself, just sitting somewhere without anyone caring for it, it's just a statue. But as Swamiji said, if you put love and devotion into a murti, it comes to life. Meaning, just like a picture. There's a beautiful picture of Master here in front of me as I'm speaking to you. And I see him smiling. The picture is coming to life. And so if whatever we have, if we put energy into it, it will have energy, it will have love, it will have devotion. And so holy places, when we go to pilgrimage spots, this is important that we not only sensitively try to feel what's there. Now that comes, I would say, secondly. First, try to give. As you go wherever, whatever holy places, I've been to Badrinath, Kedarnath, I've been to Master's Home, I've been to Levitating Saints Home, I've been to Puri, you know, I've been to many of these, Babaji's Cave, many places. And I have found if I go with a sense of giving, that I'm going to give. Now it may sound like, what do you have to give? What do we have to give? But we have our love, we have our devotion. I'm going to give. And then I'm able to hear more and feel more what they want to give to me. For example, in Babaji's cave, as I went in there, I went with devotion to Babaji. I didn't go with Babaji, here I want this, I want that, I want this. And because of that, I could sensitively feel his presence there. And I'll tell you what I felt. I felt Babaji saying, I didn't see anything, I mean, I'm not psychic that way at all, but I felt him saying, it's very nice that you have come here, but you don't have to come here to see me, that I'm everywhere. And this is so true, which means that wherever you go, if you go with openness and an open heart and sensitivity, you can feel everywhere. Ultimately, we're trying to feel not only the plants and the trees and the animals and the sand and the whatever, we're ultimately trying to refine ourselves to be able to feel God. And that takes a lot of refinement. And I've realized that over the decades of being on this path, that you can't just go in demanding that God come to you, and He's there. But we have to be able to sensitively feel and see and know that that presence is there. And so as we go for pilgrimage, we should go with a sense of giving. And that's why it's so sweet. You see people who are carrying offerings, maybe flowers or fruits or whatever, because that's how we should go with, I'm going to give. And then as you're there, you'll find that more and more you're able to feel and be able to maybe even see more of what's happening. So as we go to pilgrimage, we should go in a meditative space. We do on our pilgrimages with Dhyana and Keshavaji. They do wonderful pilgrimages. I highly recommend them because it's the Ananda way. It's not a lot of outward show and things happening. It's just very inward and very quiet. And we chant, of course, to God and gurus, but then we also just be still. We're still and we just try to feel the presence of God. And so as we go in that spirit that I'm going to, just like this, it's a wonderful example. For example, Kriya is like a seed that is planted in the heart of the new initiate by the guru. Now that seed could lie there and nothing happens, or it could grow. And there's a beautiful story of two farmers who had been given seeds to plant in their fields. And one took the grain, the seeds, and he put it aside, and the other just went out and threw the seeds out on the land and left and hoped for the best. But the other one, he put the seeds aside and he went and he tilled the soil, and he took all the rocks and the weeds and he worked with the soil. And then he made all the rows for the seeds, and he watered, he put in nutrients, and then he went, and only then did he go and he planted the seed. Now, whose seeds would have come up, would you say? Of course, the one who did the preparation. And that is how we go on pilgrimage, if we prepare ourselves. And I've seen people who go, they're talking the whole time and laughing and I don't know what else, but we should go within and a deep humility and openness that God is there in that place. That all the prayers and the devotion and all the pilgrims and the devotees who have come, that they've opened it to a degree, but we can open more. And as we open the place, the pilgrimage spot for ourselves, we can sense what happened there. Who was there? What happened in there? What special graces or blessings came in that place? And how you can bring those into your own heart, into your own life. I heard Swamiji tell of a story when he went, I don't know exactly where it was, but he went in, it was here in India somewhere, I believe. And anyway, he went to meditate. So he was meditating in a particular place, and some priest came by, and he said, well, because Swamiji had sat there for, I guess, a long time. And the priest said, no, when Swamiji was leaving, no, what were you praying for? I saw you sitting there praying. And Swamiji said, well, I was praying for God's presence. And the man, he said, Swamiji said, like, well, what's the big deal? Doesn't everybody come here and they pray for God's presence? And he says, no, people come and they pray for money, and they may pray for health, and they pray for fame and fortune, and they pray for all kinds of things. Nobody prays for God. And unfortunately, in today's world, it's becoming a little bit like that. So us as devotees, when we go to places, we should go with a sense of communion with God, and that I'm here for God, I'm here to give to God, I'm here to feel God's presence, that is why I've come on this pilgrimage. And I think that's why our pilgrimages are so beautiful. And finally, let's remember it's not really necessary to go anywhere. That I remember once I was new here in India, and I went on a pilgrimage. Swamiji he encouraged me to go because I had never been to India before. It was my first time. This was in 2004, before I came to live here. And so I went with a group to many of the wonderful places of India. And so when I came back, Swamiji said, well, how did it go and how did you like it? And I said, Swamiji, I don't need to go on a pilgrimage. We have you. We have Master. Why would I go anywhere? And he said, no, you need to go. You need to go, and you need to see them, feel the places. But he knew what I meant. And that is that the real pilgrimage is inside. And I think what Swamiji is saying in this saying is more that feel inside God's presence. And as you tune in, as you chant more, as you meditate more, as you sing the songs of Swamiji, and as you listen to his songs, and as you rid yourself of the distractions, I remember a time we were living in Italy, in Assisi, at the retreat there. We had been there for some years. I lived there for 7 years. And I remember every night that in different ones of the rooms where I lived in this big house, you would hear chanting. So, a certain hour, 8:30 every night, you would hear chanting from the person. You say, oh, nice chanting. And it would inspire you. Then you'd hear this person, oh, that person is so beautiful, is chanting. And I remember Swamiji said once, this is what I want to hear over in this retreat. I want to hear people chanting. And so every night you would hear that, and it was just glorious. And then I remember someone had the idea to bring in a TV monitor. So this is not for TV, but for movies. We can watch movies. And I was sort of co-directing then, and I just thought, it's just not such a good idea. Because I knew what would happen. And maybe it had to happen, I don't know. But as soon as that was brought in, to the ashram. And we had about 3 or 4 different places, but there was a place where people would go and more socialize. As soon as that was brought in, the chanting stopped. And I remember feeling so sad. I knew it would stop, but that meant people were over there instead of going in here. So I believe what Swamiji's saying, more than places you go, feel inside. Who are you really? Where have you been? Where are you going? Is the Master in your heart? Talk to him. Sing to him. Talk to Divine Mother. Have a divine romance going with them all the time. And as you do, then, as I said earlier, what we're really trying to do in any kind of sensitivity or awareness or perception is ultimately to perceive the light, to perceive the Om, to perceive God as love, to perceive Divine Mother in front of us, to be able to see the Masters coming and visiting us in our ashram or our home or wherever, and to be able to be that sensitive that in any moment you can feel their presence, see them, and know that they're there. God bless you all.